everyone, and welcome back to PBA at Noon. I'm Paul Benwell, and I'm joined by my associate, my colleague, Sophie Caesar. We are very excited to be hosting ERO Copper today. For those of you who don't know ERO Copper, it is a base metals mining company featuring a peer-leading organic production growth via its 99.6% interest in Mineração Caruba, a long-established Brazilian copper mining company with over 40 years of operating history in the Curaçá Valley. They recently announced quarter two earnings of $7.7 million in revenue, that's US dollars, that along with a strong balance sheet has them uniquely positioned to weather COVID-19 pandemic. They are backed by top-notch mining institutional shareholders, BlackRock, Fidelity, T. Rowe Price, just to name a few. They're currently trading at 1928 live on the TSX under the symbol ERO. It is my pleasure to introduce to you the President and CEO, David Strang. Welcome, David, and please start whenever you're ready. Thank you so much.
Thanks very much, Paul. I'm just having a little problem just sharing my screen. If you can give me just 1 second, I think.
Certainly.
It doesn't seem to be, says, my apologies about this, everybody. I'd love to be able to share my screen with you, but it seems
we can actually see your screen, David. Hi, it's Sophie.
Hi, Sophie, but it's the wrong presentation that's showing.
Oh, so sorry.
My apologies to everybody. Let me just see what I can do here with respect to that. It was fine before we started all of this. There it is, but for some reason it will not load. Well, with that in mind, and as I try to do this, everybody, thank you very much for joining us. ERO Copper is a company that was formed in 2016 with a view to acquiring a long-standing operating mining company in Brazil by the name of Mineração Caruba. So while ERO is still a relatively young company of only 3.5 years, the company has had, in terms of its operations, a long operating history in Brazil. Mineração Caruba has been operating for over 40 years in Brazil and has been producing copper for that length of time. We had the opportunity in 2016 to acquire the company, and as it had run into financial difficulties at that time with regards to the Brazilian financial crisis, and acquired it and have taken it, as Paul mentioned earlier, from strength to strength. Mineração Caruba is comprised of 3 main assets. The main operating company, which operates in northern Bahia, is a copper mining company that has operations, 2 mines currently process and producing copper that is processed through a single mill on that property. We also have the NX gold mine that is located in Mato Grosso state, about 1,000 kilometers away. And then we have the Boa Esperança development project up in Pará state. We currently produce approximately 40,000 tons a year, or just over 100 million pounds of copper. And from both our copper operation and our gold operation, we're expecting to produce around about 50,000 ounces of gold this year. The interesting investment thesis with regards to Mineração Caruba and our operations. Oh, I guess you can see the correct presentation. My associate has just told me. So let me just jump on and see if I can have a look at the presentation myself and walk you through it. If you can just give me 1 second here. I guess we can't. I'm unable to control the presentation from where I'm sitting right now. My apologies. So let me just walk you through the opportunity set in terms of the investment in our company. Why would you want to invest in ERO Copper? And the first significant issue with regards to is management's philosophy. Management are very much driven by a return on invested capital philosophy. We're not net asset value focused, and everything that we do is there to generate the highest returns available to shareholders. And over the last 6 quarters, we have been able to do that in excess of 20% on a quarterly basis, with the last 3-4 quarters being over 30% return. So that is our core focus. We're able to do that because we have an asset base, and particularly the mill that we operate in the Curaçá Valley, that is only currently operating at 40% of its capacity. That gives us huge leverage with regards to looking at future growth in terms of copper production by the mere fact that our capital requirements in order to increase production are extremely low. We also have a mineral district that has been underexplored. And with my background, having worked with the great Ross Beatty over the last 15 years and really learning from him with regards to resource development and building our team very much built around resource development and exploration, we have a land package that is extremely large. It's approximately 120 kilometers north-south by approximately 30 kilometers east-west. And that land package has been underexplored by the previous shareholders who really used the company as its personal piggy bank because they weren't mining focused, as opposed to our team, which is very much driven towards resource development and production growth. And with that, what happens is we are very, very focused on that. As mentioned earlier, we have now grown and we now have apparently one of the largest exploration programs in the world. We currently operate 28 drill rigs on the project. And as you have seen, if you follow our drill results, we have had significant success over the past 3 years in terms of our exploration. The other aspect of our company which should be taken into consideration is our costs. We currently operate at the lowest quartile of the cost curves. The last quarter, we released our operating costs were around about 70 cents a pound, and we're guiding for 2020 operating costs between 70 and 85 cents a pound, thereby putting us, as I said previously, in the lowest quartile of the cost curve, and our ability to generate significant margins are there. So we're a highly profitable company. We produce a significant amount of copper. We have growth potential in doing so, but the real crux with regards to that is the exploration and what type of mineral deposits do we have. Well, the exciting thing for us is when we looked to acquire the company was related to the fact that we believed it was a magmatic sulfide district. For those of you who do not know what that means, many of you, particularly in Canada, will know Sudbury and Voisey's Bay. And of course, the granddaddy of them all in terms of magmatic sulfide deposits is Norilsk in Russia. But we felt that the district had been misrepresented just purely from the fact that nobody had been there to be able to look at it outside of Brazil. And our evaluation was that it was a magmatic sulfide, and that's been proven to be. To date, we have only really scratched the surface. It has been producing copper because the historical operation was focused on producing copper. But the opportunity is not only to grow our copper production, but also more importantly, the potential for nickel and PGMs exists. We have released news releases late last year with the discovery of a deposit by the name of Suriema. And Suriema has shown us the first areas of mineable, in terms of mineable grades, of both copper, nickel, and PGMs. Still very much in the infancy with regards to our work in nickel and PGMs, but certainly another sort of ball in the air that we are able to juggle with respect to opportunity down the road from an exploration perspective. So what we have again, from an investor's perspective, looking at ERO Copper, what are the opportunities? Highly profitable copper mining operation with leverage to grow. Exploration potential with the large land area that we have with an exploration program that is one of the largest in the world. And I might add that we fund all of our exploration and all of our internal projects from internal cash flow. And so that really kind of gives you a bit of an encapsulation of ERO Copper and what ERO Copper is. I'd like to be able to just introduce you to our other assets as well. NX Gold, which is our gold mining operation, a mine that was built and started in 2012 by the previous owners. When we acquired the company, the previous owners had not done any drilling on the property since they acquired it. And we found that quite intriguing as well. In fact, we kind of call NX Gold the mini-me of MCSA in the respects that it has a large land position, not as large as MCSA does, but certainly a very large land position from a gold mining and gold potential perspective. Again, a mill that is underutilized. I think we only operate around about 30–35% of its capacity right now. And ownership previously that had not done any exploration. Last year, we started our first exploration program at NX Gold in the beginning of last year. And happy to say we made a new discovery that we are now mining. And that new discovery has gone from strength to strength. We currently are producing mining gold at around about between 7 and 10 grams a ton, making us one of the highest grade operating gold mines in Brazil. And I dare say one of the lowest operating cost ones, with operating costs currently around about $400 an ounce. Our work at NX very much mirrors our work at MCSA in terms of the copper growth strategy. We're very active. We have, I believe, now 6 drill rigs turning at NX Gold, looking to grow and discover new opportunities in the district so we can continue to grow production through that underutilized mill. So that's our gold operation. Pretty excited about it. It's doing extremely well, as you can well imagine at the moment, with $2,000 gold and an exchange rate in Brazil, which is very advantageous to us from an operating cost perspective. The last asset that we have is Boa Esperança. Boa is a copper development asset in Pará State, one that has a very robust feasibility study completed on it. We, in the first couple of years, in terms of taking over MCSA, was very much focused on that, making sure the operations come back to themselves and growing that operation. And we're comfortable now that we can start to look at Boa Esperança. And it's been interesting in terms of the work, the initial work we've done there. We are going to be doing and redoing the feasibility study. We think there's opportunities to improve. And I think we'll be ready at some point in 2021 to discuss that to the marketplace. So another asset that we have for growth in terms of our overall copper production portfolio. From a corporate perspective, we very much, one of the reasons why we're return on capital focused is management and the board are significant shareholders of the company. We own about 17% of the company fully diluted. So we're very much aligned with our shareholders. From perspective of shares outstanding, we have 86 million shares outstanding, 92 million fully diluted. Our debt structure right now, we have approximately $180 million of debt, albeit that core debt is around about 155 million. If we look at this year, we should do around about 160, $170 million of EBITDA, making our debt to EBITDA ratio, as you can see, about 1-to-1, making our debt extremely manageable. On top of that, we renegotiated our debt outstanding with our Canadian lenders to the extent that we will not be paying any principal payments until 2022. So we're well positioned from a balance sheet perspective. We have approximately $50 million in cash right now on the balance sheet. Profitable, strong balance sheet, large exploration programs, and the ability to leverage off our asset bases in terms of our 2 main plants to be able to grow our company. And so with that, my apologies with regards to not being able to share the presentation with you on a step-by-step basis. It is available on our website at erocopper.com, and I would refer you to that presentation. But with that, I'll turn it back to Paul with regards to questions and take it from there. Thank you, Paul.
Oh, you're very welcome. And everybody has already got a link to your website, so they will see the presentation. We'll be sending it out to everybody again anyway, so that they'll all get it. So no worries there.
Thank you very much.
Excellent. So let's start off with the questions, David. The first one being, Brazil has been hit hard by COVID. How badly were you affected? And how are you guys moving forward?
That's a great question, and obviously a very appropriate one to ask. One of the things that we had with when COVID hit, Brazil, albeit they got hit very hard, we had about 6 weeks to prepare before it entered the country. And as a company, we decided that we were going to take a very aggressive approach with regards to defending not only our employees, but our communities with regards to that. I believe we were the first mining company in the world to go out and buy its own test kits. We ordered over 10,000 test kits, not only for our own workforce, but for our communities and our local municipalities. And we took very aggressive social distancing and various metrics with regards to trying to manage and control the disease in terms of its impact in our community. We have had COVID. I am happy to say that 99.9% of our COVID victims, for lack of a better terminology, were asymptomatic and or mild. We had one employee who went to hospital for about 4 days. So nobody's out the woods yet with regards to managing it, but I am happy to say that we have been able to maintain our production levels, and we have been very, very aggressive with respect to managing COVID in and around our operations and our local communities.
Oh, that's fantastic to hear. Here's an interesting question. Do you hedge with futures?
We do not hedge our copper price. We do actively manage our foreign exchange exposure to the Brazilian reais. We believe from a gold and copper perspective that our shareholders want to be able to have the right for their exposure to those metals by owning our shares, and so that they will actively manage their own portfolios with regards to hedging if they so feel to do with regards to the metals. So we look at it as hedging, we feel, is part of a funding or a funding package. If you were going to build very, very large operation, we can see the value of hedging in doing that. But from an operating perspective, we do not see hedging as something that forms part of our portfolio.
Thank you. What is the mine life as it is now?
In terms of the mine life, we have currently approximately 10 years of reserves. We actively manage in terms of our drilling to have around about 10 years. When we acquired the company 4 years ago, it's almost 4 years ago now, it had just over 3 years of mine life. So with respect to our core assets, we have 10 years of mine life. With regards to NX Gold, we currently have, in terms of our 43-101, approximately 4 years of mine life, but we expect that to increase significantly with our next 43-101 coming out.
Of course, that's an excellent way to go. If the left-wing government takes power, will this affect you negatively?
That's hard to say with regards to whether the left-wing government takes power or not. In Bahia State, there is a left-wing government in control. The Labour Party does control Bahia State, and I'm happy to say that we have very good relationships with our state government. Remember, when we acquired the company, there was a Labour government in power at that particular time, and we had good relations on the federal level as well. So from a perspective of the mining industry, and particularly our company, one has to remember that we are the largest tax-paying company in Northern Bahia, but we're also quite integrated. A lot of people don't realize that we're actually the public utility with regards to water supply for over 75,000 people in Northern Bahia. So we have a very strong social and economic position with regards to our communities in Northern Bahia, and with the support of the government, both whether it's Labour government or whether it's the current government, we have not seen any impact to us with regards to changes of government, et cetera, et cetera.
So I'm guessing at the same time you have a lot of support from the community, especially that you're
We
bringing
do.
in jobs and infrastructure.
We do. It's a cornerstone of how we operate. My experience having worked in South America for the last 15, 16 years, all over South America, is one of which, and one that I very much learned from Ross Beatty, is working with communities is paramount. And our ESG focus as a management team is high with regards to that.
I'm sure some investors will be very happy to hear that. We have another question concerning drilling. Are you still on track for 226,000 meters of drilling third year?
I can't tell you if it'll be 226,000 or 240,000, but certainly yes, we are going to be operating in that range. Yeah.
And the infill drilling is still expected at 150,000 meters?
So I think what the person who's asking the question is with regards to a slide we have in our presentation with respect to what we term near mine and greenfields exploration. So just to touch on that briefly, up until now, we have really focused most of our work around our existing mines. And that was to help solidify our reserve base, which we've been able to do. 2020 is very much a pivot point for us with regards to exploration and starting to step out into new unknown areas of the Curaçá Valley and what we term greenfields exploration. So it's not necessarily, when we talk about infill is always part of a drill program. But when we talk about near mine drilling and the 150,000 meters, I believe we have in that graph, that's more around not only infill drilling and new discovery within the mine, but also drilling in and around the mine. And then, of course, now that we've started to move drill rigs into the rest of the valley, that we will now be concentrating and growing our exploration work and drill meterage in the rest of the valley.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
That answers that question.
What is your cash position, and do you need to come back to the market?
Our cash position is, as I mentioned previously, is approximately $50 million of cash right now. We like to throw shares around like manhole covers. So as I said previously, as a company that's focused on return on invested capital, we are very much focused with regards to using our internal capital to grow the company. We do not have any plans at the moment with regards to coming back to the equity markets for equity. Is there a scenario at some point of making a very large discovery that requires us to put another 20 drill rigs on site, and that would potentially require that? Of course, that we can never say never, but frankly, with our profitability and the amount of money we're making in terms of the company, I find that is a very remote possibility that we would ever do that.
Okay. Oh, here's a great question. Why are you only at 40% milling rate?
We inherited the company with regards to that capacity constraint. So the previous, as I mentioned, the previous owners of the company were not mining focused. In fact, in the 25 years they owned the company, only one of the shareholders had ever visited the mine, which is astounding to me. And so basically how it was operated was they gave the management team a dividend number and they said, pay us this and you do whatever you want with the rest, which essentially basically put their foot on the throat of management. To give you a comparison, historically, the exploration budget for this company was less than $1 million a year. We will spend this year almost $30 million in 1 year.
Phenomenal.
That's on a comparative basis. So historically, it was living hand to mouth. The team, while they knew opportunities were there, weren't given the capital to go and grow the business. And so historically, production was capped. Where we are today is now we're growing the business. And it's our intent to gradually show, as we go forward here, production increasing on an annualized basis moving forward. And so to whoever asked the question, please be on the lookout for our 43-101 later this year, as we intend to start showing our ability to be able to grow production.
Okay, would you be able to discuss a little bit about, I know you mentioned it, but shareholders and how much management owns of the stock?
Happy to. So management owns, as I said previously, 17% of the company between management and the board. With regards to shareholders, it's public record. Our four largest shareholders are T. Rowe Price, Fidelity, and BlackRock, and a mining private equity fund by the name of Tembo Capital. All four of those companies own between 9 and 10% of the company. We're very proud of the fact that institutions like Fidelity, BlackRock, and T. Rowe Price would be significant shareholders of our company, considering while we're over $1 billion market cap, to have those firms. So those are our largest shareholders in terms of share ownership.
Excellent. I believe Paul has a couple of questions for you, David.
Just touching on the 40% milling rate and permitting, would there be any permitting needed or any kind of government regulation for you to increase milling rates?
No. The original capacity of the mill was 5.5 million tons when they first built the mill. And then the previous owners sold off 2 of the mills in the mill. So that's our capacity constraint. So everything in terms of the operation is built around 5.5 million tons of capacity. As you can see, we'll do approximately 2.3 million tons this year. So we have significant opportunity to grow, but no permits are required for us to go back to the original capacity because the installed capacity is essentially in place.
Okay, so there would be no cost involved in increasing capacity?
No, there is obviously some cost. We have to go buy the mills back, but on a relative basis, with regards to the capital cost to go and take production from 2.4 million tons, or our current capacity in the plant was approximately 3.7, but to go from 3.7 back to 5.5 is merely buying those 2 mills back. And
putting, right.
We had another question come in. Sorry to interrupt, gentlemen. The cash and debt, is it in US dollars or Canadian dollars?
I quoted is in US dollars.
Okay.
And touching on the debt, could you just run that through again? You said something about delaying payments or not
paying.
Yeah,
so our debt, we have our core debt is around about $155 million with Scotia and BMO. We have a situation with them that we do not pay any principal until March of 2022. So we're merely paying interest right now until that time. And then we will start paying the principal, portions of the principal on an annualized basis from March of 2022 onwards.
Is there any close due dates on any of the debt?
Nope. Nope.
So you're good to go there.
Yeah, debt is well managed.
Well, I guess that answers all the questions that I had. Like obviously your drilling is to increase the size of your, like what you have, to increase your mine life and to bring a new 43-101. Average grades, do you think the grades will change? So like your cost per production per pound stays the same or?
Well, it's a great question. One I didn't touch on in the presentation. So people have always said to us, well, if you're return on capital focused, what are your return hurdles? Which is always a really interesting question to ask with regards to that, because you've got to be very careful with regards to putting yourselves in a box. So as a management team, our focus is to maintain our operating costs at or below $1 a pound.
Okay.
If we're able to maintain $1 a pound, keeps us in the lowest quartile of the cost curve. And obviously, with regards to wherever the metal price goes, we have defensive position if the metal price drops. But as the metal price continues to rise, as we're seeing right now, we obviously make significantly greater profits. So with regards to grade, it's not a question necessarily of grade. We have some open pit potential that is lower grade, but can be mined at a lower cost than some of our higher grades. So when we look at it, we try and help investors and shareholders gear in around what is the company doing with regards to its operating costs, and are they able to maintain that dollar a pound target? And if we're able to do that, we will continue to make significant excess profits and return on capital.
Perfect. Answers my question. Thank you so much. David, it's been a pleasure having you today. Obviously, we're going to be following your company for the next 4 months, all your press releases, and still putting your story out in front of as many people as possible. Great presentation without the screens. But
we'll be sharing that with everyone, so no worries.
Actually, we'll get that out to everybody.
Well, thanks, Paul. And just to let everybody know, we do a quarterly, because we do so much drilling, as opposed to putting out individual drill results, we do put out a quarterly exploration news release. That is typically done 4 to 6 weeks after our quarterly financials. So please be on the lookout at some point here in September for an update on our exploration results. And then, of course, anything that warrants notification to the marketplace, we will be putting those out.
We'll make sure that we send that out to everyone. One last quick question. Does the restricted travel impact hands-on management? I mean,
another great question, and I wish I had touched on that previously. You know, one of the assets we didn't realize we acquired was our management team in Brazil.
Okay.
You know, we acquired a company down there that is fully integrated. And really, when we look at our operations, we do not have a foreigner in Brazil managing our company down there. You will not see a Canadian flag flying over any of our mines. It is managed by our great Brazilian management team. Now, one of the areas that frustrates us is on the geology side. You know, one of the things we've brought to the table has been our great geology team, and to be able to bring new thinking in terms of looking at that, we've had that bit of a restriction during COVID because we haven't been able to travel. And looking at core over Zoom is not quite as fun as looking at core in person. I'm happy to say that we're all flying down to Brazil this weekend and starting our process up to be able to go down and work down and get our GEOs and our consultants back in country to be able to look at some of the exciting stuff our team's been doing. But on an overall basis, from an operation perspective, the team has done a phenomenal job and they haven't needed us on site.
Excellent.
I just had one question come in, gentlemen, while you were chatting. If you get 10 years on both projects and you choose to expand the production on copper, what will be the strategy on gold, and will you pay a dividend?
Great question. And so as a return on invested capital focused company, we're constantly looking at what is the best return, what's the best utilization of our free cash. Currently, our best utilization of free cash is to drill and grow our assets. But there will come a time when we will be making excess cash, and we have to be able to look at that. We think we've got an abundance of riches with regards to the Curaçá Valley and NX Gold with the exploration upside potential. So we certainly see a path to paying dividends and giving money back to shareholders. We're not from a copper perspective, we're not a growth orientated. We find it very difficult certainly on the copper side. Gold's a little different. There's some interesting opportunities we see on gold, but from the copper side of things, I think it's very, very difficult to beat what we have in the Curaçá Valley in terms of looking outside and saying we should buy something else. So we're very focused on making the highest returns we can and ultimately paying dividends back to our shareholders. Because we are them. I'd like to get some.
Thank you.
Exactly. Well, I guess we'll wrap it up with that. And thank you so much, David. Much appreciated. And thanks to Scott Koyich for introducing the company to us. And like I said, we'll be following you for the next few months. And it's a great story. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Sophie, for your time. All the best.
Take care. Thank you.